everybody. I'm back again. Later tonight. I'm so sorry. It was just one of those days. Anyway, so for those of you who have not tuned in before, I am currently reading my father's manuscripts. Do and I'm marking them up as I go. Basically, right now we're on chapters 18 and 19, and so of a 28 chapter book. It's more like a novella, really, but that's fine. We're at some really good parts here. If you haven't tuned in before, then please go back and listen to past broadcasts so you can get caught up and understand what's going on in the story. Because I'm running late, I'm just gonna hop right on into it again. I Because I'm editing, you'll see my head go down a lot. Unfortunately, I may not be able to talk much because it's challenging to talk and read at the same time. So, sit right back and you'll hear the rest of the story. Okay. Chapter 18, Deputy and the Gifts. With great caution, the small band approached the outskirts of the town. Tywell rode ahead as a scout, and the rest kept uneasy hands on their swords as they moved. Ethan was watching carefully on both sides of the trail as they went along. A man on horseback suddenly broke from the cover of a stand of small trees ahead of them, galloping for the town. In that instant, Ethan half recognized him as one of the bandits. He kicked Priyan into a run, but it was shortly apparent that the man had too much of a head start on them. Ethan pulled Priyan to a halt, leaped down, and scooped up a fist-sized stone from under the snow. With a rod of strength in his left hand, Ethan threw the stone with all the strength of his right. The stone whistled through the air, so fast that the deputy could not see as it went, and struck the bandit in the back, driving him forward and off his horse. Ethan sprang up onto Priyan again, with the rest, and the rest went trotting forward to investigate. The bandit was dead. They took his weapons and shield and the shield he had been carrying, and rode on. Ethan called Tywell to him. "How was it you missed him?" Tywell looked away uncomfortably, then spread his shoulders and looked back at the deputy. "My mistake, deputy. It will not happen again." "Best it should not, Tywell. The next time we might not be able to remedy the situation so easily. Go on now. They may have another watcher a little further up the road." As they rode along, Raj came up beside Ethan. "Deputy, I have been studying the matter for some time, and I think I may have reached a solution, or part of a solution, to the problem of Moel's paper. The difficulty is that I cannot be sure that I have the solution until I have a chance to test it." "It would be better if I could test it before we actually face Moel in battle. If that is not possible, well, when the time comes, I can but try and hope for the best." Ethan considered the matter for only a short time. "We have come this close, and to turn and ride back before we have even seen how things go into the town would be disheartening to the men. We will have to hope that we do not meet with Moel at all, and after today, we will try to give your spell a test. I do not like it either, but it is the best I can do." Rod shrugged. "So be it, then. I only hope that you will not be wishing me to creep up on them quietly. I'm already so frightened that it would be a wonder if they could hear my teeth chattering all the way from here to the town." Nathan grinned at him. "Have you told me Had you told me you were not frightened, I should have had reason to doubt either your sanity or your humanity. Let us go on." In the end, though, it was not Moel himself with the paper that came down on them. As they rode on, Ethan suddenly cursed himself for a fool. "Back, all of you, to our camp. Go on, ride. If they come after you, scatter and go back by different tracks. Go, go, and quickly." They looked at him and saw his face, and knew whatever he knew was serious. Tywell, well ahead of them now, had not heard, and Ethan was about to kick Priyan into a run to catch the young man. Raj hesitated at his elbow. "What is it? You have a vision, have you?" "No, but I have been a fool. The sentry's horse will have returned to town, and when it comes in, will either have they will either prepare to meet us or come out seeking us." He caught up with Tywell and explained the situation to him. "The bandit's horse will have returned to the town, and they'll be ready for us. If they do not come out looking for us, we can return another day." Even as they turned and rode away, Ethan saw a dozen horsemen coming out of the trees some distance away. With a shout to Tywell, he kicked Priyan into a run. It was not much longer before it became clear that they were safe. The bandits had run their horses practically all the way back from the town, while Ethan and his men had been careful not to overwork their own mounts. The bandits steadily dropped back, and eventually Ethan and his men were able to stop. They looked expectantly at Ethan. "If we choose a place carefully, we may be able to ambush them and do some damage. They will probably follow us for a little longer at least. We are willing to fight them, deputy, if you will lead us." "Good. We will need a place where the trail passes a copse, or some such thing we can use for cover. One of us will hang back, watching the bandits and leading them along. When they come past us, those of us in hiding will come out and attack." Cody spoke up. "I know a place that is such you seek, deputy. About a half hour's ride ahead, there is a stand of trees. The trail goes by at a great distance, of about 20 feet. We can get inside the trees from the other side. They will be especially cautious if they see our tracks lead right into the wood." "Yes, indeed. There is a path which circles around the far side of it and in." "Fine. Then all we need is someone to hold back, to watch, and to lead them to us." "I will do that, deputy," said Glass. "Good. You know what we need?" "I believe so." "Follow along behind you, keep them in sight, and encourage them to follow." "Right. Now let us set to it then." Ethan watched as Glass went riding by, glancing toward the trees from time to time, but not staring at it. The deputy nodded his head approvingly. If Glass had carefully avoided looking at the copse at all, the bandits might well have noticed that and taken alarm. He noticed a tautness come over his little band now, and they hardly breathed, waiting for the bandits to approach. Then the bandits were riding by, intent on the trail before them. Suddenly, the horse belonging to a young man named Nerthan, broke the silence and with a loud neigh. Wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Even as he inwardly cursed the bad luck, Ethan gave the order to attack. The bandits had just heard the sound of the horse neighing themselves and were bringing their horses to a stop. As Ethan and his band burst out of the trees and the bandits began to draw swords and turn to face the attack, Ethan reached them first, barely ahead of Nathan, and his sword swept swiftly. The bandit barely managed to parry the blow, and Ethan pulled up free and then struck again. This time he headed home. Despite the warning of the neighing horse, the bandits were still taken quite by surprise. The battle lasted only a few minutes, and the bandits did not really have their hearts in it. For once they had managed to fight clear of Ethan's band, they galloped for town. 4 of them remained dead on the ground, and several others were bleeding from various cuts as they fled. Of Ethan's band, one was dead, a quiet sort of fellow named Kymar. Glass, who had galloped back to fight as soon as he heard the sounds of battle, had a deep wound in his right shoulder. Several others had minor scratches and bruises, but on the whole, it had been a successful battle. They stripped this. Oh, good grief. They stripped the slain of arms and such armor as they wore, caught up the horses, and left the field. Without shovels, they were unable to bury the dead, either their own or the bandits, but they took Kymar along. The nearest farmhouse, they borrowed digging tools and managed to hack a shallow grave out of the frozen ground. Having taken care of that, they rode back to their glen, hiding their trail as well they could. Now, just bear with me here for a quick moment, because that was chapter 19, which was really short. Like chapter 18 was 2 pages, chapter 19 was half a page. And let me just see where I'm at here. You know what? Why not? It was, well, because of what I'm going to have to do in order to make it work, because I still have like 8 chapters, and we have today, tomorrow, and Friday. So they're shorter chapters, well, except for when I get later on in the week. So I'm going to actually just read chapter 20 tonight. You get an extra chapter. Anyway, chapter 20. As Ethan surveyed the faces around the campfire that night, he found them somewhat sober. Tywell and Glass, who had harbored unrealistic notions as to what battle consisted of, had now seen at first hand that it was not only the evildoers who died in battle. Kymar's shade hung over them all, dampening the song and laughter which had lightened their moods the previous night. As you can tell, chapter 19 is going to have to be expanded on. Okay. Let's try that again. Kymar's shade hung over them all, dampening the song and laughter which had lightened their moods the previous night. Though Ethan regretted the loss of the young man, he also recognized that such things happened, and that the knowledge of a comrade's death would make the men more wary, and hopefully less liable to commit dangerously stupid acts. He was reminded of his days fighting against the Kamratha, when he and his comrades had sat around the fires after a battle, noting who was no longer among them. Something had to be said, though, and at last he broke the silence. And he at last broke the silence. We did well today. Faces turned toward him, expressions blank, as though they were attempting to work out what he had said and finding it difficult to believe. We did well today, he repeated, because the men we fought were men used to fighting together, and we were a rather mixed group with little or no battle experience. But one of the reasons that we did well today was that they were careless. They did not expect us to fight as well as we did, and were not ready for us. From this time forth, however, they will be more and more ready for us, and we shall have to continue to make more plans, new plans, so that we are continually taking them by surprise. He finished there and wanted to see if any of them had anything to say. They stared at him, but said nothing. They decided the next day to do some hunting. It was not that they needed meat, but that they needed warmer clothing. They hoped to find wolves or wildcats, and they had several men skilled enough in the art of skinning animals and preparing the hides. It was not expected that they would be able to outfit everyone immediately, but they expected to be able to do so eventually. That day's hunting was moderately successful, and that evening they had several hides drying on racks around the camp. The next day they hunted again, with similar moderate success, and that evening, around the campfire, Ethan spoke to them. Tomorrow, we must do something to prevent Moel from forgetting us. A little raid on the town or something similar. Sudden tension came over the men, and Ethan smiled at them. To be sure, we can continue to enjoy ourselves in this luxurious existence, but we have a task to do to rid this country of bandits. Simply staying quiet in the woods will cause no concern to Moel. We must act. The raid was not as successful as the first one, though they did let Moel know that they were around. They scared up one of the sentries, but the man was too far ahead of them to stop them. They chased him until they were in sight of the town. Then they turned and rode away. After they'd gotten out of sight of the town, Ethan called a half halt and looked around rapidly. They will likely pursue us, and they will likely be expecting another ambush. Best if we scatter into twos and threes to meet later on. If they split up to track each group, then when we come together once more, we may be able to ambush one or two of the smaller groups. They looked expectantly at him, so he assigned them in pairs and threes, riding with one of the groups himself. When they gathered again, however, it appeared that Moel had not attempted to have them pursued at all. This will not happen every time, Ethan told them. As long as we are free and resisting him, Moel cannot be sure of his rule. He knows that we are capable of ambush, and that we know the country well. In the end, however, he will have to try to fight us when we come out of hiding. For that reason, we must always take care to hide our trail as much as possible when we leave our glen and when we come back to it. Not that we should become complacent ourselves. The next time we make such an attempt, Moel will probably be more ready for us. Since they were near Duna's farm, Ethan suggested they stop and ask him for food. They had plenty of meat, but some vegetables and some bread, if it could be spared, would be welcome. Gripper, of course, raised the alarm, and Duna, seeing the band of men coming down on him, was ready for the worst. Even when he saw the deputy at their head, he was not much more at ease. What is all this, Ethan? We fight against the bandits, Moel. The bandit, Moel. Ah, did I not hear that he has taken the town? Indeed he has. We hope to make things difficult enough for him that he will leave town before spring. So few of you? Unfortunately, yes. We would hope for more to join us, but we have already had some small success. We killed several men in an ambush the other day. Ah, but what do you do here? We have come asking for food, if there is any to spare. A few vegetables or some bread. We already have plenty of meat. Ah, wait here, and I shall see what Lankesig has to say. The upshot of it was that they came away with a few carrots and some small loaves of bread. As they were about to ride off, Duna called to the deputy. Ethan! Yes? You will understand, will you, that while I would not willingly betray you, if the bandits come and ask about you, I cannot hide the fact that you have been here, nor which way you have gone. Of course not. Our tracks are too plain. If they come by, tell them that we have come, demanded food, and then rode off. If they should find us, they may well rue it. Rue! Lots of rueing. So much rueing. Ambient noise. It snowed that night, which was a relief to Ethan. As they gathered for breakfast, he talked to them. This snow will hide our trails to and from this place, at least for a time. But barring another snowfall in a week or so, we shall have to move our camp. If any of you know of another place or places where we could hide, I will be thankful if you tell me. Moel will be seriously searching for us, especially after we have made 2 or 3 more forays. Rest for a bit, and we will ride out again this afternoon. The young men were not too happy with the situation, but there seemed little choice for them. They could not go back to town now, for Moel's men most certainly would take revenge on them, and possibly their families as well. Ethan spoke to Raj in private. You said that you thought you have a solution to Moel's paper? Have you tested it? The magician's face was white and strained. After staying in comfort in the inn with Abraeus, this sojourn in the wild was hard on him. He attempted a smile. Yes, I have tested it. It works, but there is a disadvantage. My counterspell is a little longer than the spell. So it must be begun. It must be started before Moel begins his spell. That means I must anticipate his use of the paper and begin first. Ethan smiled. It is better than having no defense at all. Are your powers returning? Raj grinned a real grin this time. I find that the need to concentrate on not feeling the cold is very helpful for magical concentration. By spring, I may indeed be a wizard again. Ethan returned the grin. And you owe it to me and a beer mug. Raj laughed. If it continues cold, perhaps you ought not to remind me of that. In a fit of irritation, I might turn you into a rat. Okay, well, did I mention this as a rough draft? Did I mention that? It is a rough draft. Oh, yes, we have cat. Anyway, um, thank you everybody for tuning in, and yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, even though it's a little bit late, I'm gonna try to go back to my regular schedule tomorrow. But for now, everyone have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.